Eli Ward never thought he would leave Earth, let alone be standing on a floating space station orbiting a burning blue star. He wasn't a soldier. He wasn't a diplomat. He wasn't special. He was just a mechanic, a guy who fixed engines, patched up wiring, and made sure doors didn't jam in deep space. When the Terran Union invited a few support workers to join the Earth delegation to the Galactic Peace Summit, Eli thought it would be a nice break. See a few aliens. Snap a few photos. He didn't expect to change the galaxy. The summit was being held on Celestara Prime, a massive neutral space station built by dozens of alien species. Thousands of leaders, nobles, soldiers, and scientists had gathered there from every corner of the galaxy. Eli, wearing his gray jumpsuit with oil stains still fresh, looked completely out of place as he walked down the shining halls. Tall aliens, with 4 eyes, shimmering skin, or crystal armor, passed him without a glance. He didn't mind. Honestly, he preferred staying unnoticed. He was heading back to the Terran service quarters when the lights suddenly flickered. Then they turned red. Alert. Alert, core reactor breach in Sector 7. All personnel, evacuate immediately. Eli stopped in his tracks. Sector 7. That was near the central hall where the summit leaders were. Gathered, his heart jumped. He turned and ran. Flames licked the walls as Eli slid into the reactor corridor. Emergency doors were closing. Smoke filled the air. He saw alien technicians, running, shouting in different languages. But none of them were going into the fire. Eli didn't think twice. He pulled out his toolkit, jammed the emergency panel, and forced the door open. Inside, the reactor core was overheating. Plasma sparks shot from the cables. If it exploded, half the station would go with it. In the center of the chaos, a tall woman in glowing silver robes lay on the ground. Her long hair floated in the heated air like threads of light. Her eyes were closed. She wasn't moving. Eli cursed and rushed toward her. He dodged a burst of flame, kicked aside a fallen beam, and slid beside her. She was breathing but weak. The control rod had fallen beside her. She must have tried to stop the meltdown herself. "Come on," Eli muttered. "Not today." He pulled her over his shoulder, using every muscle he had, and dragged her out of the core room, just seconds before the auto shield sealed it behind them. Engineers and guards ran over, but Eli was too busy catching his breath to notice their wide eyes. He had just saved the Queen of Luminara. Eli sat quietly in a small medbay, sipping water. A tiny green alien nurse kept checking his vitals, looking more confused each time. "What's going on? Can someone tell me if that lady's okay?" A man in golden robes entered. He looked important and nervous. "Mr. Eli Ward," the man said, bowing slightly. "You have done something incredible. You've saved Her Radiance, Queen Seraphina, ruler of the Luminara Empire." Eli blinked. "I saved who?" Before the man could reply, trumpets echoed through the station. The doors opened, and a tall, radiant woman entered the room. It was her, the woman from the fire, but now she wore a crown of glowing light, and her silver dress shimmered like a star field. Her presence made the air feel still. Every guard bowed. Even the nurse dropped to one knee. Eli remained seated, still holding his water cup. Queen Seraphina walked slowly toward him, her eyes bright and endless like galaxies, locked onto his. She didn't speak right away. Then she raised her voice and said to everyone in the room, "This man is my mate." The room went silent. Eli's jaw dropped. "I'm sorry. You're what?" It took 3 hours to translators, one confused AI to explain what had just happened. Queen Seraphina was not just a ruler. She was believed to be a chosen vessel, a royal being whose mind was connected to the ancient energy of her people. For her to name a mate was rare. It was seen as sacred, destiny, and now she had chosen a human, Eli. "I think there's been a mistake," Eli said nervously. "I'm just a guy from Luna Colony. Fix power converters and clean out vent tubes." Seraphina sat across from him in her royal chamber. She smiled softly. "You risked your life to save mine," she said. "Not for reward, not for fame. You moved without thought. That is rare, even among my own people. Eli rubbed the back of his neck. Honestly, I didn't even know who you were. I just saw someone in trouble. Exactly, she said. And that is why the stars spoke. Eli wasn't sure what that meant, but the way she looked at him made it hard to argue. Still, this was crazy. Look, he said, standing up. I appreciate the whole queen thing and the fancy robes. But I can't be your mate. I don't even own a tie. Seraphina laughed, a light, musical sound that made the walls seem to glow. Eli Ward, she said, standing with him. You may not understand now, but you will. And whether you accept it or not, the galaxy has already begun to change. Knight Eli was given royal quarters. He wandered through golden halls, sat on chairs bigger than his bed back home, and stared out of transparent windows at the swirling stars. I'm not a hero, he whispered. I'm not some chosen one. But far away, across the galaxy, dozens of alien leaders were already holding emergency meetings. The Queen of Luminara had declared a human as her mate. To some it was a shock, to others it was a threat. And to Eli, it was just the beginning of something far bigger than he could imagine. Eli Ward woke up in the softest bed he had ever slept on. It felt like clouds mixed with memory foam. The sheets smelled like starlight and flowers. For a few seconds, he forgot where he was. Then he remembered he had saved a woman from a burning reactor. That woman turned out to be Queen Seraphina. Now somehow, she had declared him her mate in front of the galaxy. Eli groaned and buried his face in the pillow. This can't be real, he mumbled. But it was. The royal guards were still outside his door. The golden ceiling still sparkled above him. The translator drone hovering nearby said, "Good morning, royal mate." Eli nearly choked on his own breath. "Stop calling me that." Later that morning, Eli was brought to the queen's private garden. Giant trees with glowing leaves stood. Beside pools of floating water, strange birds flew by, singing in 10 different tones at once. And there, standing by a crystal fountain, was Seraphina. She looked like something from a dream. Her gown shifted colors with every step. Her long hair floated gently as if touched by invisible winds. But her eyes, kind and powerful, were what Eli noticed most. "I see you're still confused," she said softly. "I'm not just confused," Eli said, stepping forward. "I'm terrified. Why did you choose me?" Seraphina sat on a smooth silver bench and motioned for him to join her. "There is a prophecy," she said, "one that speaks of a ruler whose mate would come not from the stars, but from the ashes, from a forgotten world where courage burns like fire and hearts speak with honesty." "Sounds poetic," Eli said, sitting down slowly. "But I think you picked the wrong guy." "You saved me," she said, not knowing who I was. "Not asking for reward. My people call it fate. I call it something more of honor." Eli scratched his head. "Yeah, but I'm just a mechanic. And still, you acted like a king." While Eli tried to understand why a queen would want someone like him, not everyone was happy. In the upper halls of the royal palace, Lord Varix, one of the queen's high advisors, watched the news feed with narrow eyes. A human? A filthy, weak Terran? Chosen by the queen? Unacceptable. "Begin the plan," Varix said to his assistant. "This Earthman must be removed, quietly, before the galaxy loses all respect for our throne." Back in the palace gardens, Seraphina gave Eli a tour of Luminarian culture. She showed him a giant tree that stored the memories of her ancestors. A school where young nobles learned to fly starships with their minds. A hall of light where warriors danced to music and memory. Everything was beautiful. Everything was powerful. Eli felt completely out of place. "You really think I can be part of this?" he asked. Seraphina looked at him. "I don't just think it. I know it. But the choice is yours." Eli looked away. "I don't belong here." But just then, a loud scream came from the far end of the garden. 2 robotic guards had fallen. Smoke rose from the hedges. A black drone zipped through the air, its eyes glowing red. It locked onto Eli and fired a laser shot. Seraphine's guards weren't fast enough, but Eli was. He grabbed a metal pole used to hold lanterns, rolled behind a bench, and waited. As the drone flew closer, he jumped up and swung hard. Crack. The drone's engine sputtered, and it crashed into the pool. Guards rushed in. Seraphina ran toward Eli. "You're hurt." Eli looked down a burn on his arm. "It's just a graze. I've had worse in engine rooms," he joked, breathing hard. Seraphina looked at him in awe. "Even now, you protect others." Eli stared at the drone wreckage. "That thing was aiming for me, wasn't it?" She nodded. "There are some who believe you are a threat to our traditions." Eli shook his head. "I wanted was to fix some lights, meet a few aliens, and go home. Now people are trying to kill me." Seraphina touched his arm gently. "You have two choices, Eli Ward. Run from this, or rise with me." That evening, Seraphina called a meeting in the Hall of Mirrors, a place where thousands of diplomats from different species gathered. Eli wore simple gray again. Everyone else wore cloaks, jewels, armor, or glowing suits. He felt like a lost tourist. Then Seraphina stepped onto the central platform. "I have made my choice," she said, her voice strong and clear. "This man, Eli Ward of Earth, is my chosen mate. I will not hide it." Murmurs broke out. Gasps. Shock. A few nobles shouted, "Human! He has no title. He has nothing." Seraphina raised her hand. "I am queen. I decide what is noble. And I see in him more courage and truth than I have seen in most nobles here." Eli didn't want to speak, but he stepped forward anyway. "I didn't come here to be royalty," he said. "I'm not brave. I'm not smart. I just saw someone in danger and helped." He looked around at the alien leaders. "I don't care about thrones or power. But I do care about Seraphina because she listens. She protects her people. She's not just a queen. She's a good person. If I can help her, I will." The hall was silent. Then one alien with silver skin stood and bowed. "I support the queen." Then another and another, but in the shadows. Lord Varix turned away. This would not be the end. Later, Lee and Seraphina stood on a high balcony, watching stars swirl around the palace. "You spoke well," Seraphina said. "I just told the truth," Eli replied. "That's why I chose you." He looked at her. "Do you really believe we can make this work? Queen and a mechanic?" She smiled. "I believe in what we can become together." And for the first time since arriving on Celestara Prime, Eli didn't want to leave. He didn't know what tomorrow would bring. He didn't know if the galaxy would accept him. But he knew this. He would stand beside her, even if the stars burned around them. Eli Ward stood on the balcony of the Queen's palace, looking at the stars. It had only been a few days since Seraphina declared him her mate, but his life had completely changed. He used to fix engines. Now he stood next to a queen, used to clean vents. Now he was part of royal meetings. And people were trying to kill him. He shook his head. "This is insane." Behind him, the doors opened. A soft voice spoke. "You're awake early, Eli." It was Seraphina. She wore a simple blue robe, not her royal gown. Her hair was tied back and her expression was calm, but he could see worry in her eyes. "I couldn't sleep," Eli said. "Too many thoughts." "About leaving?" she asked. "About staying," he replied. Seraphina smiled gently. Then, "You're already stronger than most nobles I know." Later that day, Eli attended a royal council meeting. He sat beside Seraphina at a long table shaped like a star. Around them were leaders of the Queen's empire, generals, scientists, advisors. Lord Varix sat near the end. Silent, but always watching. A luminary in general stood and spoke. "Your radiance, there is unrest across the border worlds, some believe. Your choice of a human mate shows weakness. Others see it as an insult." "I chose Eli with my heart," Seraphina replied calmly. "Not politics," Eli whispered. "Maybe I should stay out of this. I don't want to cause a war." But Seraphina shook her head. "You are part of this galaxy now." Another advisor stood. "Your Highness, the warlord of Krexar 4 has challenged your mate." He says the human must prove himself or you lose your right to rule. Eli blinked. Wait. 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 What? It is an ancient law, Serafina explained. If challenged by a noble of war, a queen's mate must face them in the trial of champions. Eli stood up. I'm not a champion. I've never held a sword in my life. The trial allows the challenged to choose how they fight, the advisor added. It can be combat, but also strategy, invention, or skill. Eli thought, for a moment, he couldn't fight. He'd lose, but maybe he didn't have to fight the way they expected. He looked at Serafina and said, "Then I'll accept the challenge." Gasps filled the room. Seraphine's eyes widened. "Are you sure?" "No," he said. "But if this is how I prove myself, I'll try." Lord Varix hid a cruel smile. Let the trial begin. The trial of champions was held on 0Thor89. Hollow Moon turned into an arena. Thousands of aliens came to watch. Some expected to see Eli crushed. Others were just curious. The warlord challenger, Marnock the Red, was a huge alien 9 feet tall, with 4 arms, metal armor, and a deep growl in his voice. He stood in the center of the arena and roared, "Let the human choose his test." Eli stepped forward, holding a toolbox. "I choose a challenge of skill," he said. "You bring a broken power core. I'll bring one too. First one to fix theirs wins." Marnock laughed loudly. "You fix things? That's your power?" Eli smiled. "You'll see." 2 identical broken power cores were placed in the center of the arena. Both buzzed with unstable energy. Fixing them was dangerous. One wrong move, and it could explode. Marnock grabbed his with metal hands and began smashing parts into place. He worked with brute force. Eli knelt calmly beside his core. He studied the damage. He checked the wires. He pulled out tools, a solder, pen, a scanner, and duct tape. The crowd watched silently. Serafina sat high in the royal box. Heart-pounding, Eli whispered to himself, "Okay, let's reroute power, bypass the coolant loop, and seal the leak." He moved quickly, hands steady. Marnock yelled in anger. His core was smoking. Eli's core glowed blue, then green. Stable. Repaired. A silence fell over the arena. Then the machine buzzed. With a clear tone it worked. The arena erupted in cheers. Serafina stood proudly. Marnock dropped his tools and growled, "Impossible." Eli shrugged. "You tried to fight it. I just understood it." The judges declared him the winner that night. Serafina found Eli sitting under a floating lantern tree. "You were brilliant today," she said. "I almost exploded myself," he replied, grinning. "You used your own kind of strength." "That is what I hoped for." Eli looked up at her. "You still sure about choosing me?" She sat beside him. Now more than ever. They sat quietly for a while, watching the stars. But trouble was not far. In a dark chamber deep beneath the royal palace, Lord Varix met with alien nobles who opposed the queen. "He won the trial," one said. "Now what?" Varix's eyes narrowed. "Then we moved to the next step." He pulled up a hologram of a ship, black, sleek, and deadly. "The Null Swarm," he said. "Ancient machines. No emotion, no mercy. I will lead them to attack the Queen's city. Then the human will be blamed. The people will beg for new leadership." What if he stops them again? He won't. Back in the palace, Eli walked through the moonlit halls. He still didn't feel like a royal. But something had changed. Inside him, he wasn't just surviving anymore. He was fighting for something bigger. And though he didn't fully understand why the Queen had chosen him, he now believed there might be a reason. But as he reached his room, a message popped up on his communicator. "Emergency alert. Unidentified ships entering Luminaran space. Shields down. Communications blocked." The screen flickered and went. Dark something was coming. Something worse than politics. Something that wanted to erase everything. The warning sirens rang through the palace. Red lights flashed across the walls. Eli stood frozen in the hallway. staring at the message on his communicator. Unidentified ships approaching, shields down, communications blocked. He ran toward the Royal Command Room. Guards moved quickly, weapons ready. Servants hid in rooms. Officers rushed to defense stations. When Eli reached the main chamber, Queen Seraphina was already there, standing tall before a large star map. Around her were generals, advisors, and holograms of outer sectors. She turned when she saw him. Her voice was steady. "They're here. Who's here?" Eli asked. Seraphina pressed a button. A red, sharp-looking fleet appeared on the map. "Null swarm," she said. "Machines without minds. They destroy planets. They don't speak. They don't stop. They see all life as a flaw." Eli stepped forward. "Where did they come from?" "They were sealed centuries ago." "Deep in the dark void," a general said. But someone opened the void again. Eli narrowed his eyes. "Lord Varix." Seraphina nodded slowly. "He's behind this. He wanted to weaken my rule. He brought death to my people." "We can't let them through," Eli said. "What can I do?" A silent moment passed, and Seraphina looked at him with soft eyes. "Lead with me." Minutes later, the Queen stood in full battle, armor silver plates glowing with energy. She was not just a ruler now, she was a commander, and beside her stood Eli, wearing upgraded human body armor, mixed with Luminaran tech. It felt heavy, but, "Right? You sure I belong here?" he asked. Seraphina gave him a warm smile. "The throne may be mine, Eli, but the heart of this defense is yours." They stepped onto the bridge of the Star Crown, the royal flagship. Across the stars, hundreds of Luminaran ships powered up. Fleets formed in protective walls, and from the darkness came the enemy. The Null Swarm, thousands of ships, no pilots, no number. Mercy, no soul. The battle began. Explosions lit the dark space like fireworks. Eli stood near the tactical console, watching the numbers change. Luminaran ships fell. Swarm moved like one mind. "They're adapting too fast," one officer said. "They're breaking through Sector 9. Eli remembered something from an old Earth textbook. Machines could be smart but predictable. "We need to confuse them," he said. "Make them chase ghosts. Feed them false data." Where Seraphina nodded. "Do it." Eli linked a human-made virus into the defense network. Nothing harmful, just trick code. Suddenly, the Null Swarm ships split, chasing false targets. Their formation broke. "Our left flank is clear," shouted a general. "Counterattack now." Seraphina raised her hand. "Charge the Nova Beam." A massive blast of golden light fired from the Star Crown. It tore through the enemy lines. Cheers echoed on the bridge. But victory was still far. In the middle of battle, the power on the Star Crown flickered. "Something's wrong," Eli said. "They've sent a stealth unit on board." "The Queen?" And Eli rushed through the ship. Alarms screamed. Guards fought strange, black machines that moved like shadows. They reached the main reactor. One of the machines was planting a dark crystal designed to overload the core. Without thinking, Eli jumped forward. He grabbed a plasma rod and smashed the machine's arm. The crystal dropped. The machine grabbed him. Seraphina raised her hand and fired a pulse, blast breaking the attacker apart. Eli fell back, breathing hard. "Kay, that was close." "You saved the ship," she said. "You saved me," he replied. They stared at each other, and for the first time, their hands touched, gently, carefully. No longer just queen and mechanic. Now, partners back in the command chamber, the battle still raged. "Their mothership is shielded," an officer said. "We can't break through." Eli looked at the readings. "It's pulling power from all nearby units. If we cut the connection, we can shut down the shield." "But how?" Eli pointed to a narrow path through the debris field. "I can get close in a stealth pod. Send a surge pulse. It'll fry the link." "No," Seraphina said. "Too dangerous." Eli placed a hand on her arm. "I can do this. And I'm not doing it alone. Send 2 droids with me. Just trust me." She looked at Imond, saw not a worker, but a leader. "Go," she whispered. "In return." Eli flew the small pod through wreckage and fire. Sparks flew around him. Enemy drones zipped past, unaware of his presence. He reached the connection. Node. It was a glowing tower, guarded by 4 black sentry bots. He whispered, "Time for some old-school human tricks." He released a small drone with sound decoys. The sentries turned, chasing the noise. Eli jumped onto the tower and placed. The surge pulse. "Goodbye signal," he sedoned. Hit the switch. Boom. A wave of light burst through the node. The swarm ships around the mothership went dark. Losing power back on the star crown, Serafina saw it happen. The shield is down. Fire now. The fleet unleashed all weapons, missiles, light cannons, pulse beams. The mothership exploded into 1,000 burning pieces. The null swarm collapsed. All remaining enemy units powered down and fell like ash. Into the void, the battle was won. Serafina stood in silence as the lights returned to normal on the bridge. "Where is Eli?" she asked. There was no answer. Then a voice crackled through. "The comes, hey, can someone come pick me up? May have floated a bit off course." The crew laughed. Serafina smiled with relief. Later that night, back on the palace balcony, Eli and Serafina looked out over the city. Fireworks lit the sky in celebration. "You were amazing," she said. "I winged it," he replied. "I always do. It saved us all." He looked at her. "So, do you still want a human as your mate?" She stepped closer. "I don't just want you, Eli. I need you." Their hands joined again. No hesitation, no fear. And as the stars watched, a queen and Az. The stars watched. A queen and a mechanic stood together not just as allies, but as something much more. The skies of Luminara were bright with fireworks. Ships danced above the palace like glowing birds. City below cheered for the return of peace. But Eli Ward didn't care about the celebration. He sat quietly in the Queen's garden, cleaning the scratches on his old toolkit. A few days ago, he had been a simple mechanic. Now he had saved an empire. The whole galaxy knew his name. And yet, he still felt like that same man from Luna Colony, the Queen's advisor. Lady Enya approached with soft steps. "You have visitors," she said kindly. Eli raised an eyebrow. "More reporters," no, Enya said, smiling. "Worse, politicians." Eli groaned, but stood up. Inside the royal hall, delegates from over 30 star systems stood waiting. Humans, aliens, and other strange beings, each with their own traditions, robes, and languages. They all looked at Eli as he entered. A tall diplomat from the Zareth. Coalition stepped forward. "Eli Ward of Earth," he said. "We came to question your place beside Queen Serafina, but now we come to thank you." He bowed deeply. Others followed. A Sonari with glass-like skin said, "You did not run. You fought beside her. You led without pride." A warrior from the stone-skinned Volrak people growled, "You are not just her mate. You are her equal in courage." Eli scratched his head. Thanks." The room chuckled. Serafina walked in behind him and placed her hand on his shoulder. "You see now?" she whispered. "They don't see you as an outsider anymore. They see you as one of us." After the gathering, Eli and Serafina walked. Alone in the moonlit garden, "You've changed everything," she said softly. "I just fix things," Eli said. "That's what I do." She laughed gently. "You fix more than machines, Eli. You fixed hearts. You showed the stars what humanity really is." He looked at her. "And what do you see me as?" She stepped closer. "Not just my mate, my partner, my heart, my future." They stood in silence, looking into each other's eyes. Then Serafina said something unexpected. "Will you marry me, Eli Ward?" Eli nearly dropped his toolkit. "You're serious?" She nodded. "In our tradition, a queen may choose her own bond. I want it to be you." Eli smiled. "Then yeah, I'm in. Just tell me if I need to wear anything weird." The royal wedding was unlike anything in history. Millions watched across the galaxy. Ships lit the skies with beams of color. Choirs from 100 species sang together in one united voice. Eli wore a suit made by Luminaran artists, mixed with pieces of his old Earth gear. Like the same wrench he used to save her the day they met, Seraphina walked down a glowing path of starlight, wearing a crown that shimmered like galaxies. When they met at the center, High Priestess raised her hands. "Do you, Queen Seraphina, take this man to share your throne, your life, and your soul?" "I do." "Do you, Eli Ward of Earth, accept her bond, her heart, and her stars?" Eli looked at Seraphina. "I do, always." The priestess smiled. "Then let the stars witness your union." The hall erupted in cheers. Ships fired celebratory pulses. Flowers rained from the balconies, and Eli kissed the most magnificent queen in the galaxy. But the story didn't end with the wedding. In the days that followed, Eli became more than just a royal mate. He helped rebuild cities damaged by the Null Swarm. He created new engineering schools to teach humans and aliens side by side. He visited frontier planets and inspired young people who never thought someone like them could stand in a palace one day. A reporter asked him, "How does it feel to be the most famous human in the galaxy?" Eli chuckled. "Honestly, still weird, but I'm proud. Not because of fame, but because people are working together. That's what matters." Back in the shadows of politics, Lord Varix was captured and brought before the Queen. He had caused the Null Swarm invasion. Many demanded death. But Seraphina looked at him coldly and said, "You feared weakness? But the strength you fought against saved us all. You failed, because you could never see beyond bloodlines." Varix was exiled to a far-off moon where he would live among the people he once saw as lesser. Justice, not revenge. Months later, Seraphina and Eli stood at a school on a small mining planet. Children from different species ran around them, laughing, learning, building. One child with 4 arms pointed at Eli. "That's him. That's the human who married the queen." Another asked, "Were you scared?" Eli knelt down, terrified. "But I didn't run." "Why not?" the girl asked. He looked at Seraphina, then back at the kids. "Because someone believed in me, before I believed in myself." That night, as they flew home to Luminara, Seraphina looked at him. "You could have gone home, back to Earth, back to your old life. Why did you stay?" Eli leaned back in his chair, watching stars pass by. "Because home isn't always where you come from," he said. "Sometimes it's who you stand beside." She smiled. "And I'm lucky you're beside me." "No," Eli said, taking her hand. "I'm the lucky one." In time, their story became legend. The queen who chose a human, the mechanic who became a hero, the man who reminded the galaxy that greatness doesn't come from titles, but from heart, courage, and the will to do what's right. And in every star system, from the icy moons to the golden cities, people remembered the name Eli Ward, the human who changed the stars.